Hi, this is Alicia Mayfield, and today we are going to be talking about constructivism. Constructivism is a learning theory, and it is a theory that humans gain knowledge from their experiences. Um, this is not a pedagogy, but it has impact on learning theories and on teaching methods. If we look at these pictures, there's two pictures of boys playing with sand, and we know that especially for young learners, but for all learners, play is an important part of um, growing and developing. And if we look at the first picture, there's little boys here playing in sand. They're playing with a bucket, and they are learning what it means to fill something up. They are learning what happens when something is too full. Perhaps when he puts that scoop of sand on top of the bucket, it falls off because there's no more room in the bucket to hold the sand. They're also learning about texture. It might have rained the day before, and so the sand might be a little moist. They're learning about what happens when it rains. Um, in the second picture, there's a little boy playing with a sand mill, and he's really looking at it and observing what happens as the wheel spins. And later on, when he's in school or somewhere else and he learns about a water mill, he has this experience on which to build his knowledge and his understanding of what a water mill is and what it does and how it works. And then he can also apply this knowledge to perhaps windmills, even though they are a little bit different. He has something on which to build that knowledge later on in his life. Some of the foundational theorists of constructivism are Jean Piaget, and he believed that play was important and that it provided experiences for children to develop cognitively and to grow. John Dewey was also a theorist that believed that education and learning are social and they're interactive processes, and that students and learners thrive when they can interact with each other and interact with the things that they are learning about. Down at the bottom, we have Lev Vygotsky, who believes that reasoning develops through practical activity and through social interaction and the social environment. And then Maria Montessori believed that developing a child's initiative and natural ability through play and activity was the best way to help children learn and grow. Um, we're going to talk about a traditional classroom versus a constructivism classroom. And the first aspect we're going to look at is curriculum. In a traditional curriculum, the curriculum is very textbook driven, and it's isolated skills that then build on top of each other and finally produce a whole. In constructivism, the curriculum is authentic. You use authentic novels, authentic experiences, and learning activities that promote problem solving and application. In my math class right now, we just got done with a unit on geometry, and one of the things that, one of the activities that we learned about was teaching about circumference and diameter, and particularly the formula C equals pi d, or circumference equals pi times diameter. And when I was growing up, I grew up in a very traditional type learning environment, and I was given the formula, and I was told to plug numbers in and how to do it. But in a constructivist classroom, you would start with the whole, which is the circle and the circumference and the diameter, and then let them explore and play, and then break it down into the steps, and then arrive back at the whole. And so what this activity was that you gave the kids 3 to 4 different sized lids, and they measured the circumference and they measured the diameter, and they filled it in a table and then estimated about how many diameters it would take to make a circumference. Of course, every single lid, even though they were different sizes, followed along the same pattern where it was about, or a little bit more than 3 diameters would create the same length as the circumference. And once the students did this, then they could write the formula themselves, where circumference is about equal to 3 times diameter. And then from there you can teach them what pi is and teach them the formula, and they have an understanding about what the formula is and how it works. In a traditional classroom, students are viewed as blank slates that are just ready and willing to take the knowledge that we give them, and that they don't have any prior knowledge or experience to build on. They're also viewed as passive learners, that they're there just to do what the teacher says. But in a constructivist classroom, we view students as active learners that are actively building upon their prior knowledge and prior experiences and assimilating and accommodating the things that they are learning to what they already believe and know. In a traditional classroom, students work in isolation and they work in reaction to what the teacher has taught. The teacher lectures and then they react by completing a worksheet or completing a number of problems or writing sentences or whatever it might be. In a constructivist classroom, students work in groups and they are actively working and connecting thoughts and knowledge and experiences together. In a traditional classroom, a teacher's role is that of being an authority and being a source of information, whereas in a constructivist classroom, teachers are seen as facilitators. They provide activities and experiences for students to build their knowledge on, and they assist students in these activities. They assist in helping correct misunderstandings and helping students assimilate and accommodate the information that they're learning and the experiences that they're having. In a traditional classroom, assessment happens in the form of tests, and particularly unit tests or end of the chapter tests, standardized tests. In a constructivist classroom, while there are tests, there is a lot of focus on formative assessment and things such as summative assessments such as portfolios, projects, writing papers, different things like that. Those are all constructivist forms of summative assessment. In constructivism, there is a model of learning called the PAR model of learning, and this is a way for teachers to present lessons and present new information to students. It starts with the present part, which should be no more than 35% of the block of time that you're learning. So if you have a 45-minute block of time, this is about a maximum of 15 minutes. And this is where teachers present information, and this can be done through a teacher or student demonstration, through videos, through resources such as handouts, CD-ROMs, internet, things like that. You can use cooperative learning techniques such as Jigsaw, or even student and teacher discussion. I think that's kind of what you can see in this picture here is maybe a combination of discussion and student demonstration. The next part of a PAR lesson is apply, and this should be about a minimum of 60% of the lesson. So in a 45-minute block of time, a minimum of 27 minutes should be spent with the students applying what was presented. And this can be done through group discussion, through case studies. It should involve problem solving and decision making, and could involve creating things such as PowerPoint or a Prezi, a poster. It could be creating a diorama, or even, like I said, that lid lesson that I was talking about, this would be the application part where the students are actually applying their knowledge and gaining new knowledge to assimilate and accommodate. During this time, it's really important for teachers to make sure that students are on task and are behaving. And this is the role of the teacher, and they're also checking and checking for understanding. When students don't understand something, it is the ideal time for learning to take place, because um, through correcting understanding, through students correcting their own understanding, they are learning and growing, and teachers are definitely facilitators in this aspect. Um, and then finally, the last part of the PAR model is review, and this should only be about 5% of the time, which would be, in a 45-minute lesson would be 2 minutes. So you can use 2 to 5 minutes to review, depending on how much time you spent in the present part. And this could be question and answer, where you're asking questions to the students and the students are answering, so you can assess their understanding. You could be finishing a KWL chart or any other kind of advanced organizer. On here I have a picture of an exit slip, which is another good way to review and assess student understanding. A PAR model, an activity that could be used using PAR, and one that I think is already kind of set up in this way, is a writer's workshop. And in a writer's workshop, a teacher presents a short mini lesson, either on the 6+1 writing traits. It could be on different parts of the writing process. It could be on grammar. And a lot of times, especially if you're doing a lesson on the 6+1 traits, you would use a mentor text, and then, which would be constructivist curriculum, is authentic novels and writing pieces, and you would use that to demonstrate, say, word choice. If you have a mentor text that is really good in using vivid language, you would use this to teach children about word choice. And then this mini lesson would be about 5 to 10 minutes long. Then you'd have maybe about a 30-minute block where students are able to write and focus on word choice in previous pieces that they've written, or focus on writing a piece with some good word choices. And then at the end of the writer's workshop, you would do a share time, which you wouldn't have enough time for students to read their whole piece of writing, but they could share a good word that they thought of and that they're using in their writing, or maybe a sentence that uses some good words in their word choice. This would definitely follows along the PAR model, where you present information with a mentor text, maybe model how to use good word choice, and then you have students do that in their writing, which would be the apply section, and then you review through the sharing of the mentor text, or sorry, sharing through things that they've written and that they are exceptionally proud about. And that, my friends, ends our discussion on constructivism.